Well, my life before Christ, I was actually 7 years old when I came to know the Lord, when I came to church. And so it was not a lot of living took place in those 7 years, but I do remember coming to church and how I felt. Just that drawing to say I needed something else. I was just a 7-year-old little girl. I hadn't had an opportunity to do too much, but I knew that there was more. And I just so well remember the night that I asked God into my heart.
I grew up in the church and coming from a very conservative, traditional, fundamental background. Everything was just to the T, and it was more than I could take. And so I got to the place at 29 where I said to myself, I said, I can't live up to this. I'm going to do all the things that the church said that I'm not supposed to do. So I went out and did all those things and tried to find out what I was missing. And yeah, I hit rock bottom. I kind of felt like the prodigal son. And when I realized that it wasn't a thing that I had to work for, that I could just accept the grace of God, it changed everything for me then.
Rock bottom for me, in my experience with the church and with the Lord, would have come about probably following, prior to the death of my mother, would have been I went through a divorce. I grew up in a church that taught that was not okay, and once you divorced, you could not remarry. So for me, I really felt like I was stuck, like life was over. And I noticed myself beginning to be a little resentful. I thought, this isn't right, this isn't fair. And I spent at least 3 years just seeking God and saying, God, what do you say? What is it that you really are saying? And I didn't want to ask anyone else because I knew I could get lots of opinions, but I wanted to hear from God. And had a 6-year-old daughter, raised her by myself, stayed single for at least 17 years, and for 11 years, we've been married. So that was a rock bottom time in my life, though, a time where I just felt alone. I felt forsaken. I felt like something was wrong with me. The turning point for me was experiencing the grace of God. We both had individually moved on from the church that we had grown up in, and just kind of a feeling drawn to move, and finding grace, finding that we were accepted. That to me was the turning point for me, to know that not only did I feel that God accepted me, but to know that I was accepted by other people too. That was a turning point for me, to let go of all of that you can't do this and you can't do that, and to realize that God's grace goes so much farther than rules and regulations. I don't think we can find the bottom of His grace.
I came to the realization after stepping out of what I grew up in and trying to live that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 10 kind of mindset. Stepping out of that, and then when I came back to God and experiencing His grace, it was real eye-opening. It was like realizing I had hit rock bottom, and it was like, God, I don't want to stay here. I know I've experienced you before, and yet I've turned my back on you, and I'm coming back home. And when I came back home into His grace, instead of trying to live a legalistic, doing works kind of thing, and putting it back to Him and allowing Him to work in my life, that just opened up everything.
What does life look like now? I think life looks like unlimited possibilities. And that's one of the things when I went through the divorce, I really felt like I had no options. I remember someone telling me that you've got unlimited possibilities. But the way I was raised, I thought, no, I don't have that. This is it. It's like I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And now life looks like to me like there are unlimited possibilities. The sky is not even the limit with what God has. So I think there's growth. No matter our ages, there's growth, there's change. I have a big bucket list of things that I hope to accomplish.
Yeah, being connected to this church and this local body of believers, to watch how it is transforming and changing and constantly growing and experiencing new blood all the time. It's just exciting. There's a very futuristic view here on what God is going to do in this church. And so to be connected to something that's vibrant, living, growing, changing, I mean, the possibilities are ending. And it shows what the possibilities can be, the impossibilities can be with God. And he can take whatever situation, and to watch these lives being changed. And what he did for me, I can see him doing through others by his grace. Love it. I just love that.